and solidarity everywhere. Because my decision to come to Italy was mainly influenced by Senator Giuliani. If she had not come and told me how you were all waiting for me, I do not think that Italy would have been included in this trip. But I felt that I had to be here, among other things, to catch the last day of the Verdi festival. Verdi is a man of music, and music is universal. In our world today, we need things that will bind us together. We are too full of the emotions that divide people apart, and music is one of the things that bind us together. I'm particularly happy that young people are providing the music here. Young people and music. Together, they could build for us a future that brings different peoples closer and closer together. As a politician, I have had to undergo many different experiences, not as a politician in a working democracy, but a politician under a military dictatorship. That requires the kind of strength that enables us not just to withstand repression and injustice, but to withstand repression and injustice without bitterness and without the desire for revenge. That is not easy, but I've always held that when we give in to hatred and bitterness, we lose. We will never be truly victorious unless we can gain victory without bitterness and without the desire to inflict on others what has been inflicted on us. Too often in our world today, there is a tendency to drive people apart. In my country, we have many problems. There is much conflict, ethnic conflict, communal conflict, differences between those who are committed to diverse political views. All these differences are challenges that we must meet and that we must overcome. Too often, I'm asked to condemn one community or one individual because condemnation seems to be what people see as commitment to certain values. But the values to which we are committed are those of solidarity, the values that will bring our people together. Condemnation has never resulted in greater solidarity or greater democracy. We have to understand why others are different from us. And you in Parma have shown that you understand people who are completely different from you. Burma is a country far from you. Our culture is very different from yours. Our people are different from yours. Our history is different from yours. Yet, in spite of all these differences, you have discovered what keeps us together, what is similar to both of us. Our desire for liberty, our desire to live in peace, our desire to make sure that the future of our children should be secure. The young people of Italy worry about their future. So do the young people of Burma. They do not know where they are going. What they know is they do not want to be where their parents have been for a long time. I think here you are more fortunate. Your young people here do not have to be afraid of being in the same situation as their parents had been in. But naturally, they want to go forward. They want their situation to be better. And that is not only a natural, but a desirable ambition. But you have to ask yourself, better in what way? How do young people wish to be better than their parents? Do they just wish to be better off materially? That is the question you must ask yourselves. What do you mean by being better off? Recently, I talked to a very, very wealthy man of 90 years old. So he had had much experience of life. I asked him, does wealth make a person happier? And he said, no. There is a certain level to which you must rise in order to be secure. That he accepted. But once you have this level that assures you security, the level at which you do not have to worry about your daily food, about the house in which you live, about the future of your children. He said, beyond that level, the more wealth you get, the unhappier you get. Because the more wealth you accumulate, the more becomes a desire to accumulate more. That becomes a challenge, to get materially richer and richer. And that race makes you less and less happy. So you have to decide for yourself, which are the challenges you are going to take on. Are you going to take on the challenge of getting materially richer? Or are you going to take on the challenge of making this world a better, richer world for everybody, including yourself, for others as well as yourself? I was very touched by the two young people who read out what I had said about democracy, about the kind of rights people expect in a democratic society. But I must also remind you that I always tell our people that with rights come responsibilities. If they wish to enjoy democratic rights, they must be prepared to shoulder the responsibilities of the citizens of a democratic society. That means that each and every one of you must accept that you are responsible for the fate of your society. You are responsible for the kind of society in which you live. There are those who might say, as have been said to me when I talk to our people in Burma, when I have public meetings, I try as often as possible to engage with those who have come to listen to me. I've often been asked, what can I do? I'm just a poor man. What can I do? I'm just a shopkeeper. I'm just a street vendor. How can I do anything that will change the society in which I live? But I would always say to them, each and every one of you has means of changing the society in which you live. If you are a simple street vendor and all you have is a little tray of goods that you try to sell every day, you must be honest, as honest as possible with what you are doing. Don't try to sell to people bad goods as though they were decent ones. Be honest with the people with which you deal. In that way, you can contribute to the betterment of the society in which you live. You are not nothing. Everybody is somebody. Everybody matters in some way. And even a street vendor matters to those who buy from her. If she sells, people who buy from street vendors are usually themselves not well off. They cannot afford to go to the big shops. They cannot afford to buy expensive goods. So they buy what they can afford from a street vendor. And if that vendor is going to cheat them, is going to give them even less than what they had expected, then she is adding to the negative elements in her society. So I believe that every single one of you has the ability to make the world in which we live better, more wholesome, more inclusive, more safer for all of us. And this is especially so with young people. Young people have the great good fortune of time. Time is on their side. They have time before them in which to change themselves, in which to change the society in which they live. As we grow older, we have less time left to us. But because of that, I think we have to try harder. So for whatever reason, whether because you're old or because you're young, we always have a reason, a sound reason for working harder to improve the society in which we live. As parents must try to make their homes happier for their children, children should also think of trying to make their homes happier for their parents. All starts with understanding one another. And understanding begins with communication. We have to learn to communicate with one another. And communication is something that goes beyond language. I do not speak Italian, and Senator Soliani's Burmese is non-existent, but somehow we manage to communicate with one another in a mixture of bad French and a little English. But it is the desire, the will, that is more important. If we have the will to understand one another, we will do so. This world is an extraordinary place. It's an amazing place. And I would especially like young people to know this. Many things have happened to me which I would not have thought were possible. There's a saying in English that fact is stranger than fiction. The things that really happen to us are stranger than what we read about in fairy tales, in stories, in novels. But talking about fairy tales, I've always remembered the ones we were taught as children. Quite often in these tales, the hero or the heroine of the story would be made to perform impossible tasks in order to save their loved ones. And quite often, when they were trying to perform these impossible tasks, or seemingly impossible tasks, they would be helped by a fairy godmother, some angel, some good wizard, somebody good and caring who would offer to help them. But of all those offers of help that I've read about in the books, in my stories that I read as a child, the one that I've never forgotten was one given simply, very simple piece of advice. Don't look at what you have not yet been able to accomplish. Just go on, concentrate on the task at hand, because if you look ahead and see how hard the way is and how difficult, you may be discouraged. So concentrate on what you have to do immediately, now, and do it in the best way possible. And by doing so, you will finish all these tasks which you thought would never be possible. So I would like to say to all of you, including young people, don't look too far into the future and see it as a difficult and dangerous road. Look at what you can achieve now, today, this moment, and do the best you can. And if you feel that you have not done your best, do not be encouraged, because you have another moment in front of you, another hour, another day, another month. But don't waste them. Try not to waste all the opportunities that are available to you now. If you do that, if you take each opportunity as the first and last that you will ever have, you will find that you have built for yourself a future that is not just for yourself, but for all those around you. You in Parma has given us much, away in Burma. We never expected this from you. We never knew what you were trying to do to help us, but now we know. But even in those times when we did not know what you were doing, you must have helped us, because we were always full of hope. We knew there were people who cared for us in far reaches of the globe. And this way, you helped us, you kept us our courage. Many people have thanked me for inspiring them, but they don't seem to realize that it was their support and their care that inspired us and helped us to continue. Hope has to be supported by endeavor. I have said this very often. Hope is not enough. You have to try to realize your hopes. Hope has to be supported by action, by endeavor, by determination. And as we go along the path to a democratic society in my country, because I must remind you that we have not yet firmly put ourselves on the way to a society that guarantees the basic human rights of all. As we walk that path, we are strengthened in the knowledge that you, our friends, are with us, and that you will help us to keep to that path, which is one without end. In your country too, the path that you have been walking will never end. Generations will step on and take over, and each generation must learn again for itself what is necessary to make our world one that is supported not just by material but spiritual considerations that will make us in every generation a better human race. Thank you.